Artistic Director of the Teacher Music Contact. And I have the pleasure to speak today with one of our composers, that is Mr. Callin Mowby, a very famous composer and conductor. He was also the conductor in Westminster Cathedral in London. And so we will discuss something about his life, his music, and I think it would be a pleasure for you to know more about him. And first I would like to ask you, what is your first contact with music?
My first contact with music was a boy at Westminster Cathedral, where there's a choir school. We used to sing 7 services, 7 masses a week, about 6 vespers a week. We used to rehearse about 2 hours a day. I learned to love the plain chant, I learned to love the polyphony. It was a great musical experience at the time. I went there in 1946 when the school opened after the Second World War, and it taught me an enormous amount.
How many years you spent in the Westminster Cathedral Choir? I
was there for 5 years, I think, from 1946 to 51. We had a very exceptional choir master, the harpsichordist George Malcolm, who we never knew what was going to happen with George. He was a great character. You know, some days he'd be down, next day he'd be absolutely up and hysterical. He was a great, great teacher. I learned practically everything I know from George. Wonderful man.
And when you were very young, what were the composers that first impressed you?
Well, we see, we were brought up with polyphony. We were brought up with Palestrina, Vittoria, and a lot of plain chant, Allegri. So a bit of a contemporary. Herbert Howells, the person whose music we sang in, Rubber was another. It's very difficult to pick out a particular composer. I used to like Vittoria. I used to like some of Vittoria Masters enormously. I used to like Perosi. We used to absolutely love singing Perosi. Now, it's different now. We used to be very excited when we sang the Pontificadas of Perosi. Goller was another one I used to like very much indeed. Ebner was another person. But the great polyphony, it took longer to sort of sink into one. The Bird 5-part Mass, I mean, I remember the first time we did that, and I was absolutely overwhelmed by the beauty and power of this music. It was so powerful. Not so much the Bird 4-part Mass, but the 5-part was a wonderful work.
But you are not a priest. You are a Catholic, but you are not a priest. Why you have chosen to dedicate a lot of your composition to sacred music instead than profane?
That's a very difficult question. When I was Master of Music at Westminster Cathedral, I used to write for special services, and that was obviously religious music. I've found over the years that I get more inspiration out of sacred texts than I do out of secular texts. It's a very personal thing. And also, you write for what you can do. I can write sacred music. I can't write orchestral, but I can. I write a bit of orchestral music, but I'm not an orchestral composer. You write for the gifts that you have, basically.
And if you have to give a definition about your style of composition, what you would say if you approach one person that never listened one of your pieces and he asks you to explain to him in what is the purpose of your music, what you would say?
I would say go to the text, see the meaning of the text, and look at the music in the light of the text. It's the text which is the crucial thing, and that dictates the music.
And for you, according to your opinion, what are the composers that have more influenced your music style?
The biggest influence on me is plain chant. It's the most wonderful thing. Now, people like Ravel, people like Stravinsky, I always found Stravinsky extremely interesting. There are a lot of other modern composers, you know, who's inspiring. Arvo Pärt, to some extent, I understand what he's getting at. I mean, Palestrina is influential. One subject of many, many different influences.
You seldom mention English composer or only Bird.
Well, Tallis is a very fine composer. Purcell is a very fine composer. largely written for the Anglican Church. And I think there's a great difference between Anglican liturgical music, or Protestant liturgical music, and Catholic liturgical music. But I think the actual inspiration is different, services are different. And it's never really inspired me, I'm afraid, the Anglican music. It's always very good. Bird is certainly a great influence. I only wish I could reproduce the strength, the power of Bird's music. But when you talk about Bird, you have to remember he wrote in the shadow of the axe. You never knew he was going to have his head cut off. He was a Catholic in a Protestant country. He was tolerated by Elizabeth I and encouraged by Elizabeth I, but he never knew whether he had up for treason and executed. He just didn't know. The Catholic music of Bird was usually sung at secret masses in small houses. And he used to write to the Protestant church, obviously, but always the time, always with him. He was under the shadow of the axe. And you don't understand Bird's music unless you understand that. It's fundamental to it.
And if you have to go to a very far island, and you have only the possibility to bring with you 3 of your compositions, what are the compositions that are more dear to you and that you will bring with yourself?
Well, really, that's an impossible question. I can't possibly
But there will be 3 compositions that you really...
Goodness knows, I wouldn't have a clue. I wouldn't begin to know. The trouble is, I write so much, I forget most of what I've written anyway. I'm particularly proud of the Alleluia Christus Resurrected. It's the stuff that's the better stuff I've written.
Christus Resurrected.
Yes, there's certain things in there which I just don't know. It's a very difficult question.
It's a very difficult question. So, Callin Mowby is one of our composers, and he worked for us, and we published some of his music. And I want to ask you if you can tell us something about the 2 Chinese poems. So, what you can...
Well, they started as a commission from a radio here, and he sent me some texts, and he sent me about 20 texts, I seem to remember, and it took me some time to understand them. But in the end, I picked out 2 which I could understand. He wanted them for ladies' voices, a cappella, and it took me time to write them. I'm very pleased with the first one.
In the courtyard?
Yes, that's right. The second one is more of a fanfare, really. Because of the cheerful.
Ring.
That's right. The first one is a nice piece of music. It's good, excellent piece of it.
And if one choir director have to perform these pieces, what is the suggestion that you can give them?
Again, they must go to the text. It's the text which dictates the music, which dictates the performance. You have to understand the text before you do anything. And then look at the music in the light of the text. Then obviously, if you've got technical questions, you can always ask. But it comes from the text the whole time.
May I mention some modern composer and ask for your opinion about them, about their music? So we are free to give opinion, no? Because we are. So what do you think, for example, of the music of Arvo Pärt?
It's very fine.
It's fine. It's fine. And for example, Messiaen.
Well, I've heard there can be organ works of Messiaen about 4 times now, and they have their own sound world. The Surround the Leader Symphony doesn't really speak to me, some of the old music does. It's very fine music. It doesn't completely talk to me, that's all I can say. It's very fine and wonderful music. It speaks to me.